Hello again. Welcome back to another round of crazy cabin fever cocktails. This is episode number 40. I'm Afton Locken with you today with Distilled Living, and we are produced by Fascination Design. I want to bring in a very special guest for this one, the Manhattan. I'm sure you've seen it before. You know it, you love it, who doesn't? But I also want to talk about some close cousins to the Manhattan. So the Manhattan cocktail, where it comes from, where it originates, we don't really know. There are certainly folks out there who lay their claim to it, but the true answer remains a mystery. Perhaps we'll never know how this drink came to be, but we do know for sure that late 19th century, it was very in vogue to be drinking cocktails with whiskey, sweet vermouth, and bitters, and a few variations made their way into that classic formula, and over time they developed into other cocktail staples, and I want to just show you how those relate and how easy it is to swap out a little thing here or change one tiny bit there and get something new. And we're doing a little bit of a horse theme. You'll see when I introduce these Manhattan related cocktails to highlight the Derby that is finally running now in September instead of May this year for the 146th year. So let's get started with our old favorite, Mr. Manhattan or Miss Manhattan. Either one works. It's still going to be tasty. That's going to be our classic 2-1-2 formula. So we're doing 2 ounces of spirit, an ounce of our sweet, which is the sweet vermouth, and 2 dashes of our bitters. Now remember, whenever we are dealing with our sweet vermouth, doesn't play so nice with others, so you do have to give it some time when you're stirring it in your glass. They call this a long integration cocktail. Something about, if you think about a wine and its alcohol content, it's going to be a lot lower than the high proof spirits of our whiskey or our gin, which we'll get to later. So mixing those chemicals together does take a little bit of time, but it's worth it. If you spend some time doing this right here, you're going to be just fine to have a well integrated cocktail. All right, so we're going to let that one chill out for a moment. So again, that's our Manhattan. We have 2 ounces of our whiskey, an ounce of sweet vermouth, 2 dashes of our Angostura bitters. So what's next related to that? This is an old classic cocktail that actually has a couple varieties to it. The rumor is that the Manhattan may have even been referred to something else called the Jockey Club. So I want to show you what that is, why it's a little different, but mostly how it's so similar. So it's almost the exact same ingredients. So instead of a full 2 ounces of our whiskey though, we're gonna cut it down to 1.5 ounces. So we'll go ahead and add that. And I am using Old Forester 100 proof today. If the Derby was having spectators and if we were all out there drinking the mint juleps, Old Forester would be the bourbon of choice for Churchill Downs. So 1.5 ounces of our whiskey. We're going to do 1.5 ounces of our sweet vermouth this time. So cut that down just a tad as well. All right, and then we're gonna throw in a little extra added sweetness. You can use a simple syrup, but I wanna throw in some Luxardo maraschino liqueur. It's nice and sweet, and it really helps the cherry notes pop that we do enjoy about a Manhattan. And we're gonna finish with 2, maybe 3 bitters on this one. Let's do 3, give it a little bit more of a kick. So same thing, we're dealing with our sweet vermouth in there, so give it plenty of time to integrate when you do your stir. All right, so we have our Manhattan, we have our Jockey Club, and then we're gonna swap out one thing a little bit more on our final step and make a third cocktail called the Turf Club. So with the Turf Club, we're going to remove our whiskey and we're throwing in some gin instead. Now there is a version of the Jockey Club that does have gin. So you can see how these cocktails were all very related. I'm sure there were lots of different ways that lots of different bars are putting them together, but somehow over time, this is how they made their way to us today. So when we're doing a Turf Club, same ratio as our Jockey Club. 1.5 ounces of whiskey went into the Jockey Club, 1.5 ounces of gin is gonna go into the Turf Club. Once again, exact same thing with our sweet vermouth, 1.5 ounces for that guy as well. And same thing with our bitters. So just a tiny change, 2, maybe 3 dashes in there. And we've got cocktail number 3. All right, so again, I can't say this enough. Do lots of stirring, give it some time when you're integrating anything using a sweet vermouth. You want a good, cohesive, unified flavor in your cocktail that you can really enjoy when you're sipping on it. So let's go over that one more time. We've got our Manhattan 212, 2 ounces of whiskey, an ounce of sweet vermouth, 2 dashes of bitter. To make a Jockey Club, cut down that whiskey just half an ounce, so 1.5 ounces of our whiskey, 1.5 of our sweet vermouth, 2 dashes of our bitters, throw in a 1/4 ounce of maraschino liqueur or simple syrup or just something to sweeten that up a little bit. Switch it over to gin with our Turf Club, an ounce and a half of our gin, ounce and a half of our sweet vermouth, and again, a couple more dashes of your bitters. So whatever your drink of choice is for Derby, I hope you enjoy it and I hope you stay safe. Thank you so much.
And as always, we'll be back again 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next week, Wednesdays, and the recipe will be online later. Thanks, everybody. Cheers.